They laughed while my father was buried. As the coffin went down into the ground, I stood still. My fists were tight. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. But I heard them, my uncles whispering behind me. "Still jobless, huh?" one of them said. "Probably here for free food," another chuckled. "No wonder his dad never talked about him in the business," someone added. I was just 4 lines into this day, and it already felt like a punch to the gut. But now it's my turn. If you've ever been laughed at, ignored, or called useless, keep reading. Because quiet revenge doesn't shout. Wait. The dirt hadn't even settled, and they were already acting like vultures, circling what my father had left behind. My cousins wore shiny suits, showing off. My aunt had fake tears but real diamonds. They all acted sad, but their eyes gave it away. I saw the smiles they tried to hide. They thought my father left me nothing. They believed I was a failure. The son who never worked with his dad. The one who vanished for 5 years. No one knew where I'd been. And I liked it that way. Still chasing those dumb app ideas, my cousin Derek said loudly, laughing. He was now acting like the big man, CEO of my father's firm. At least he thought he was. People chuckled. Even the lawyer looked unsure. I didn't respond. I just fixed my cheap suit and looked at the gravestone one more time. "You told me not to trust them, Dad," I thought. You were right. Back at the house it got worse. They laughed louder now. Jokes flew around about me living in a basement. My aunt leaned over to someone and whispered, "Poor kid. He'll probably beg for a loan now." That's when the lawyer stood up. The room quieted down. "The will," he said, holding a thick envelope. "As per Mr. Richard Bennett's wishes, it will be read in front of the whole family." I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Derek leaned back, smiling like he already won. The lawyer started reading. First, the properties. All given to the Bennett Family Trust. Derek smirked. Next, the cars. Donated to charity. Then, the jewelry and artwork. Also donated. Derek shifted in his seat, confused now. Then came a pause. "And now the final clause," the lawyer said. Everyone leaned forward. "In recognition of his hard work outside this family and his strong values, I leave 100% of my personal savings, amounting to $48 million, and full ownership of my tech investments to my son, Jason Bennett." The room stopped breathing. Forks dropped. My aunt gasped. Derek jumped up, his face pale. I stood slowly, looked around, and smiled for the first time all day. "Don't worry," I said. "I won't need that loan after all." The silence in the room was heavier than the fake sympathy at the funeral. Derek opened his mouth like he wanted to speak, but nothing came out. My aunt grabbed her pearls like she saw a ghost. My uncle stuttered. "That can't be right. Jason didn't even work with him." I leaned back, letting that moment sink deep into every corner of that big fancy room. For the first time in years, no one laughed. No one whispered. A shock. The lawyer flipped one last page. "There's one more thing," he said. Derek groaned. "What now?" The lawyer read. "A private letter to Jason to be given after the reading. Mr. Bennett was very clear about that. He handed me an envelope. My name was on it. My father's handwriting. Opened it. My hands didn't shake. 'Son,' the letter said, 'I know they laughed at you. I know they saw you as a failure. But I also knew what you were building. Something real. Quiet power. True worth. You didn't need to prove anything. But if you're reading this, you've earned this moment. I folded the letter, put it in my jacket, and stood up. You all thought I vanished, that I failed, that I ran away with my tail between my legs. But while you were all playing dress-up and pretending to run the business, I was doing something real. Derek laughed and jumped in. Come on. What are you talking about? You never even had a job. I smiled calmly. You're right. I didn't have a job. Because I had a company. The room blinked at me like I was speaking another language. I built a software startup, I said. From scratch. Quietly. While you were busy showing off, I was building. Dad believed in it. He gave me my first $20,000. We didn't tell anyone. He didn't want you parasites near it. Gasps rippled through the room. Even the lawyer's eyebrows lifted. We scaled fast, I continued. Last month, we sold the company for $120 million. Someone dropped a fork. My aunt clutched her pearls again. My cousin covered his mouth. And that's not all, I said, calm as ever. That tech portfolio Dad left me. I've already started growing it. Yes. Doubling returns. I looked around the room at their stunned faces. While you were mocking me at funerals, I was working so I'd never have to ask for favors at your dinner tables. Derek's face twisted in anger. You think this makes you better than us? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone and tapped it once. Behind us, the garage doors slowly opened. Heads turned. A custom black McLaren stood there, shining like a trophy. Quiet beast. My beast. I drove here in silence, I said. But I'll leave making some noise. Gasps again. My uncle leaned over to my aunt and whispered. Is that real? That car costs more than our house. I turned slowly to face him. You can check the registration if you want. It's under Bennett Innovations, LLC. The company you all said would crash and burn. The pride on their faces cracked. That smugness vanished. The fake pity. Then came the moment I had waited for. Derek's voice shook. You used Dad's money behind our backs. I raised an eyebrow. He gave me $20,000. That's it. I turned it into $120 million. I stepped closer. What did you do with the millions he invested in your part of the company? Yes. Oh right. That branch went bankrupt. Derek's face turned red like a warning light. He had no comeback. My aunt snapped. You didn't show up for holidays. You didn't come to weddings. You ignored birthdays. I laughed for real this time. Yeah. Because I was writing code at 3 a.m. getting told no by investors. Sleeping in a rental car. Skipping meals. While you were drinking champagne and calling me a joke. No one said anything after that. Not one person could look me in the eye. Even the lawyer, who had been quiet for a while, finally spoke. He turned to Derek. Oh, and one more thing, he said. Mr. Bennett, your father, didn't leave the company to you. Derek blinked. What? He quietly transferred controlling shares to Jason last month, the lawyer said. The room swayed like it had been hit by an earthquake. I stepped closer to Derek and whispered. So, technically you work for me now. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No words came. I looked at the lawyer. Anything else? He nodded. Your father left one more thing. He asked us to play a video if things got tense. He reached into his bag, pulled out a small flash drive and plugged it into the TV. The screen lit up. My father's face appeared. Sitting in his study. Smiling. "If you're watching this," he began, "they're probably all shocked." He smiled wider. "Good. They deserve to be." No one moved. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. "You all judged Jason," my father said. "You called him a failure. But none of you knew what he was building." He paused. "He's the only one who understood value. Not just money. Time. People. Integrity. That's why he earned all of it." He looks serious now. "And if any of you are thinking about dragging this to court, go ahead." He leaned in. "I left receipts." The screen went black. And no one, not even Derek, said a single word. The screen went black. Not a whisper followed. No laughs, no side eyes. Not even the usual fake sighs. For the first time in my life, they weren't ignoring me, they couldn't. I had become impossible to overlook. Derek slowly sank into his chair like the weight of his pride had finally snapped his knees. My aunt, the same woman who once scoffed and called me the family's tech dropout, wouldn't even lift her head. Her eyes were glued to the marble floor, as if she was praying it might crack open and swallow her whole. I walked to the dining table, reached for one of those overpriced wine glasses they adored showing off, and tapped it gently with my finger. "You know what's funny?" I asked, my voice calm, maybe even too calm for the tension in the room. "You all taught me exactly how not to live." No one moved. No one dared. "You lied, you faked love, and you traded loyalty for reputation." My uncle opened his mouth, maybe to defend himself, but I didn't let him finish. "Don't say you didn't mean it. You meant every word, every smug laugh, every time you treated me like an embarrassment because I didn't look like you, dress like you, or drive what you drove." Their faces told me everything. Shame, confusion, a slow realization that they had pushed the wrong person for too long. "While you built images, I built skills. While you traded favors, I built something real. That's why you needed each other to survive. And I didn't." Right then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and smiled. "Perfect timing," I whispered. "The company I sold just went public. My shares are now worth $190 million. There was a collective pause, like a room full of statues suddenly cracked. My aunt's hand shot to her chest. My uncle blinked in disbelief. Derek's face twisted like he might be sick. And I stood there smiling. "You laughed at me when I was down. But the thing about laughing at someone's funeral is, sometimes the dead leave behind ghosts. And mine just made me the richest person here." The lawyer closed his folder, nodded once, and announced that everything had been signed, sealed, and transferred. The will was now official. I turned to leave, but before I reached the door I glanced back. "I won't be attending the next family reunion." Derek scoffed. "What's scared we'll laugh again?" I shook my head. "No. I'll be busy hosting mine on my private jet." And with that I left. Their stunned silence followed me out the door, but I didn't look back. The sky outside had turned dusky, cold air brushing past like the closing of one chapter. But for me it was only the beginning. The McLaren's engine lit up behind me with a roar that echoed through the driveway. Before I got in, I unlocked my phone and typed one message. "Initiate phase 2. None of them knew it, but the will wasn't the end. It was the beginning. 3 years ago my father pulled me aside and told me the truth, That he was sick, not just in body but in spirit. Sick of watching the empire he built crumble in the hands of selfish, shallow people. Especially Dereric. He didn't want to fight them loud. He wanted precision. Strategy. So we made a plan. While they laughed at me, I launched a fake company. Set up. I waited to see who would try to steal it. Dereric jumped in first, offering help while secretly leaking it to a competitor. We recorded everything. My aunt, the one crying the hardest at the funeral. She had been stealing from the charity wing of my father's company for years. We had all of it. Bank logs, witnesses, even her own voice on tape. 20 minutes before the will reading, I handed the entire package to a journalist. As I sat in the driver's seat, a notification lit up my phone. News was already breaking. Investigations were underway. Their faces, once so smug, were now part of a scandal too big to bury. But that wasn't all. My father and I never planned to keep the company. We just wanted to clean it out. As soon as I regained control, I finalized the deal he had negotiated before he passed. Tonight the sale would go through. A few minutes later, another update appeared on my screen. The company had been sold. $320 million. Just like that, the family empire they fought over was gone. The legacy they expected to inherit, ripped right out from under them. And I didn't keep the money for myself. I used it to start the Richard Bennett Foundation. Platform for kids like me. The dreamers. The underestimated. The ones laughed out of rooms by the people who should have believed in them. Because for me, revenge wasn't about taking everything back. It was about making sure they could never do it to someone else. They mocked me when I buried my father. But now they were the ones being buried. In lawsuits, in headlines, and in their own disgrace. And me. I was just getting started.